Hello everybody, the Great Dino Ranger here again, back with another figure review. Today we got not one, but two figures we're going to be taking a look at today, so it's a double review. And we're going to be taking a look at the Jurassic World Rebirth, Wild Roars, Abelisaurus, and Aucasaurus. Now the reason why I'm reviewing both of these together is that these are both Abelisaurs, members of the Carnotaurus family. So I figured, why not just review both of them together so that at the end, when I do comparisons, I can compare it with all the other medium-sized Abelisaurs that we have. And yeah, I just thought that just made more sense. So these two right here, along with the Mincaria, which I reviewed in the last video, found at Walmart. Really happy to have these two. I remember I got the Spikelepus, and I said, and hopefully at one point I'd like to get these two. And there we go. I ended up getting them. So brand new species, by the way. These are new species not only from Mattel, but new species in my collection. So I'm glad to add these to the ever-growing family tree of the Abelisaurs. And I just can't wait to take a closer look at these because these two look really cool looking. The detail and just the overall sculpt just looks awesome. So yeah, I'm really excited to take a look at these two Abelisaurs. Now, cool thing, these two both existed during the Cretaceous, and I believe they were both discovered in I think it was Argentina, but it's South America in general, which is where you find a lot of Abelisaurs. So that's really cool. But packaging wise, it's your standard Wild War Jurassic World Rebirth packaging with the standard colors and the Alcide Hubert background. It's got the Jurassic World Rebirth logo, Spinosaurus, Mattel. The only difference is the species that come in them, Abelisaurus and Aucasaurus. At the top, you just got the Jurassic World Rebirth logo. And then on the back, it just shows you, these are Wild Roars, so these ones are going to be electronic, and it's cool. It's got the control the attack, the primal attack gimmick where you twist the tail and it moves its head around. So that's really cool. Really excited to take a close look at that. They're both part of the land assortment based on what they were doing with Rebirth. So yeah, really nice little renders of the figures and the others in the back, which now I have all of them. I don't have the Ankylosaurus, but maybe someday. But as of right now, it's not something I'm in dire need right now. So yeah, that's basically it for the packaging. Alrighty, so here we have both of the Wild Roars, Abelisaurus and Aucasaurus, out of the box, and these two figures are phenomenal. I really do love these figures. I love everything about them. They're just really cool looking. Super happy to have these in my collection, not only just because I have two more Abelisaurs to add to my collection, but just these figures are really good looking and I really do enjoy them a lot. There's a whole lot going on here, and I'll try to keep this as brief as possible, but also trying to make sure I get all the points in. But yeah, I really do enjoy these figures a lot. Nice to have two new Abelisaurs. There's so many other Abelisaurs out there for them to make, but these are just two new ones. Two stepping stones as we approach more Abelisaurs in the future, most likely. But yeah, these two are just really good looking. I love the sculpt on them so much, and they pretty much capture the look of the Abelisaur, just overall anatomy very nicely. I love the detail that's on these figures. I love the colors, and I just love the sculpt. Everything about them are really good, especially for two dinosaurs that haven't appeared in any of the movies. I think Mattel did a pretty good job capturing the look of these dinosaurs for the most part. So with the Abelisaurus here, I absolutely love the sculpt work. Like I said, I like the skull right here. It captures the main look of an Abelisaurus skull. I'm not sure if it's quite accurate to a real Abelisaurus skull, but the fact that the skull looks like an Abelisaur is pretty much all I need. But the head sculpt looks really good. I like this little big patch of like these giant scales right here, kind of like what you see in the T-Rex in Rebirth, where it has like the big, almost like iguana-like scale, large thick scale here on the side of its cheek. I just like how bumpy the head looks, which is a very famous characteristic of Abelisaurs. But yeah, I just love the sculpted detail, and it feels really nice too. Some other figures, their scales are a bit more kind of like smoothed over, I guess. They didn't like feel as textured compared to these newer figures. Like these ones, they just feel very realistic, and if you put real feel with this type of scale detail, it would just feel so nice. And yeah, just the scale work on this Abelisaur is just spot on. I love the little wrinkles here on the neck Just like the overall individual scales here on the body just look so good. Like Mattel did an awesome job with the detail on this one. It's just so good. Mattel, you did a fantastic job with this one. It just looks so good. And as you can see, just how individually sculpted each scale is. I don't know how they do the scales on these figures, but hey, I'm not complaining. These look really great for a toy. And if you were to repaint this one, man, the scales are gonna pop so nicely on this one. Here in the mouth, I really like the little sculpted detail you got on the tongue, like the little taste buds going on there. That looks really good. The teeth look nice and sharp, and these are obviously made of a separate rubbery material, so they're not gonna scuff. So they look really good and sharp. The scaling on the head looks really good, like I said. Nice amount of detail there. I like the little wrinkles here on the neck. And then you got some larger, like, pieces of scales, like really large, maybe osteoderm-like scales, kind of dotted along the neck right here. And you got a little bit here along the top of the shoulder. And then you get a little bit of that here towards the tip of the tail, where it kind of gives it like this really rough texture appearance. And also, if you look at the detail, it looks like there's almost like some scratches kind of sculpted in right here. I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but you don't get any of those lines here along the body. So that looks like this tail has been through a lot. And it just adds to the, you know, the detail of it along with these larger scales. So that's really cool. I really like that detail. The arms look really nice too. Nice amount of scales. That look pretty darn nice. And here at the legs look awesome. Like, you got the really beautiful looking scales here on the leg, and it pretty much goes down, or pretty much covers the entirety of the leg and the foot. Nice little basic detail here on the bottom of the foot. The claws look nice and sharp. You got the nice little ridges here on the toes, nice little creases in the skin right here, nice muscles flexing through the skin, which is really well done on this one. And then here on the side of the leg, you got really nice looking armor looking scales, very similar to a crocodilian right here. I really like how these scales are right here, and I like how it's just this patch of the leg, and it just very slowly fades into these smaller scales. So Mattel did an excellent job with the sculpt work on this one. So yeah, I really do like this little texture here on the side of the leg. It looks really good. And what's also interesting is that you got like this really, like this, I guess like a crest or a sail going along its back, which is very interesting for this dinosaur, because you don't really get a crest for any abelisaur. It's mostly just osteoderms and just bumpy skin. So this is a really unique choice for an abelisaur, but I really do like it. It makes it unique, and I like how there's like a little divot right there before it continues on and it gets more jagged, so it kind of makes it a bit more naturalistic, so it's not like 100% perfect. There is some damage to it, but yeah, I really do like the little choice of like a little sail crest little thing here on the back of this dinosaur, even though it may not be entirely accurate. And another thing I really do like is this little piece right here. Look at that. You got a little flappy piece of skin hanging off the throat of the Abelisaurus here. So this is obviously very reminiscent to like a dewlap. I believe that's what it's called, but just the hanging skin structures that you see like on a turkey, maybe even a chicken, as well as a cassowary. Just those birds that have like these little flaps of skin just hanging off their neck. So that's really cool. Mattel obviously took inspiration from birds when it came to this, but it's again a really cool, unique design choice for an Abelisaur, and I really do like it a lot. When I first saw the first images of this figure, again, they weren't very clear. I thought this was gonna be like a giant spike or something. I was like, well, that is so weird. Why would a dinosaur have that? But further looking at the images and having it in hand, it's just a flappy piece of skin, and you even got the detail too. You got the little nice scales sculpted in on this little flappy piece, as well as some little stretch marks, folds and creases in the skin, so make it look like it's, you know, flappy, you know, just dangles there. So that is a really cool little design choice. Makes it for a very unique silhouette for an Abelisaur, and I really do love that a lot. So yeah, really nicely done on the Abelisaurus. Articulation wise, you just got articulation here in the arms, move forward and backwards, as well as pivot in and out. The legs, they do not pivot in and out, which is okay by me, but they do move forward and backwards at a ratchet-like motion, so it's gonna be easier to kind of position it and have it stay in that position. So that's really nice. And then there's a articulated joint here of the tail. This is where you attach the tail after you take it out of the box. And after that, everything else is due to the action feature. Now the Aucasaurus is fantastic. It's just as good as the Abelisaurus. And now the proportions on this one are very nicely done too. Nice shaped body, a small sized head, not oversized. Again, very accurate to an Abelisaur. And it's got a super long tail. It's actually a pretty good lengthy tail compared to other Abelisaurs of this size, which we'll do that later. But yeah, I really do like the longer tail and the smaller head. It just feels a bit more proportionate and equally long. The legs, sure, maybe are a tad bit short, but it's not overall terrible. So yeah, I really do like the overall proportions on this one. And now I can't be the only one, when I look at this Aucasaurus, I can't be the only one that is reminded, when you look at this, reminded of the Carnotaurus from Disney's Dinosaur. This thing just gives me those Disney's Dinosaur Carnotaurus vibes. It's got like this red color, the row of osteoderms on its back, some little horns above it, and the fact that it's an Abelisaur. It's clearly inspired by Disney's Dinosaurs Carnotaurus. Again, it could be just a coincidence, but that's the vibe that I'm getting when I'm looking at this one. So yeah, the color choices are really good on this one. Yeah, the overall sculpt right here, as we can see, the head looks really darn nice. Pretty much captures the look of an Abelisaurus skull. Again, I'm not too familiar with how the skull of a Aucasaurus is supposed to look, but overall, it doesn't look too bad. Maybe it's a little bit too thin up top here. It could be just a bit more taller or wider, but overall, it's not very bad at all. I like the row of scales here along the mouth, which are really nice, and overall, all the scales around the face. I like the little crests or horns here above the eye ridge, which is really good, and I like how it's unique compared to Carnotaurus, so it's not like the exact same thing. Teeth look really nice as well. Nice rubbery material, and they look really good. And the tongue looks really nice too. Nice bumpy texture. Same with the little flaps right here. The jaw looks really great. You got some nice smaller scales, and it transitions to these really large and thick scales towards the tip of the jaw, lower jaw, which looks really nice. And the entirety of the body is covered in just very beautifully done sculpted scales, which are really well done. So Mattel did another fantastic job with the scaling on this one, and that goes all the way down to the tip of the tail. So the sculpt work is amazing on this one. I like you got some little wrinkles here around the neck area, which looks really good, especially with the little scales mixed in there. Here at the bottom, you got this really nice pattern of scales, which are very similar to crocodilians, but it's a bit more scaly rather than square or checker looking in terms of design. So you got a little bit of that here around the chest, and as well here around this part of the body. And then as it continues down, a little bit more of like that really cool looking design of the scales for the underside, which is really nicely done, in my opinion. So that looks really great. Here on the arms, they look really nice little tiny fine little scales on this tiny little ridiculous hand that these Abelisaurs had. But I like the little claws sculpted in. Those look nice. Here at the leg, nice amount of scale detail. You got some bigger ones towards the top, and it kind of fades into the smaller ones. And you pretty much got like the smaller scales for the rest of the leg. They kind of get a little bigger around the foot, and the nice little ridges on the foot as well. I like you got some larger scales around the kneecap, and it kind of goes down the shin. So that looks really good. And the dew claw looks nice and sculpted as well. Same with the underside of the feet. Look nicely sculpted. You got the scan code right there. And then all over the body, it's covered in osteoderms, which is your basic, design choice when it comes to Abelisaurs. So it's got this really nice row of osteoderms, these row of spines that go along the back. It pretty much is very frequent along the side of the head, the neck, and the back, and it starts to slow down and starts to spread out a bit more as you get towards the middle of the tail, and then they disappear completely. And then you got another row of osteoderms here on this side, which goes down the side of the body, and again kind of spaces out as you get towards the tail, and then completely disappears. Same thing with the other side. So I really do like that. I like the little lines in between each of the spike, so it kind of gives it like that really nice armor looking appearance, and you get that here on the top of the neck as well, which looks really nice. It just overall, the appearance just looks really good. And then those lines kind of disappear on the tail, and then you got some scattered, not really osteoderms, but just some scattered large pebble-like scales all throughout the rest of the body. You got some little ones here around the head right here, some little ones along the neck. You got a few other ones scattered about the body right here, and a huge bunch, or just a huge cluster of them here on the side of the leg, and a little bit more here on the side of the tail, eventually until they disappear. So yeah, I really do like the little bumps. It kind of makes it stick out compared to the other scales. So yeah, the sculpt work is phenomenal on these two, and I really do like it a lot. So yeah, the Aucasaurus and the Abelisaurus just look amazing. Articulation wise, very similar to the Abelisaurus. The arms right here, very puny. They just move in and out, as well as move forward and backwards, though it's kind of a stiff ratchet motion. So that's nice, because at least they're not very loose. These ones aren't very loose either. And the legs, a bit more fluent than the Abelisaurus, but they have a ratchet looking feel to it. So they just move forward and backwards. They cannot pivot in and out. And then you got a little twist on the tail, which obviously you had to do when you attach the tail. I just love the color choices on this one. They're so good. Reds work so well for Abelisaurus in my opinion, especially for a Carnotaurus, even though this one isn't a Carnotaurus. But yeah, I really do like the darker shade of red for my majority of the body. Then you got like a purplish, like a dark purplish color for here around the eye, and it covers the little crests, little horn crests right here above the eye, so it makes them stand out. And the dark color around the bright yellow eye just makes it pop, makes it stand out. Then you got a few dark purple spots here along the back where the armor is, so that looks really nice, and a few splotches here on the side of the hind legs, which is really good as well. Then you got a nice fleshy color for the inside of the mouth. The teeth are obviously painted in a off-white color, which is I think the same color they used for this underside color, which looks really good and complements the dark purple and the red very nicely. I like how it covers majority of the jaw and kind of stripes, splotches down the neck, and that's pretty much all you see it. So while I do love the colors in this one, I really do wish they kind of, continued the colors a bit further. So I would have liked to see this beige color continue at least towards this part where the speaker is, or at least along the chest, just so it feels a bit more complete instead of just abruptly ending right here at the neck joint. And then these little dark purple spots, would have nice to see a few more spots here, like on the neck, and maybe here on the body, and of course some down the legs themselves. These Wild War figures sometimes don't really have a lot of paint completed or fully applied to them. That's been a thing since roughly when Mattel first started making these figures, but it is what it is. But overall, I really do love the color choices they did for these. It would have been nice to have this same dark purple color, or maybe a black gray color applied to the claws on the feet and the hands. But obviously, Mattel doesn't always paint their claws, but it is what it is. But really love the colors on the Aucasaurus, and the Abelisaurus here are just as good. I really loved like the dark bluish colors, or the dark cool colors that you get with this one. I like how majority of the body is like this really dark blue color. A really nice shade of blue, actually. I really do like that shade of blue. So that looks really good on this one. It's not too bright, it's not too vibrant. It's a bit darker, so it looks a bit more naturalistic. And then the entire front half is like this dark black color, which you can cut it in half, and it's just like two different colors, which, Mattel's been doing for a while now. But yeah, the entire head is like this black color, and the neck, and then it gets to like the front of the body. The front arms are painted in this black color as well, and then it starts to stripe down the back, eventually right before, or just until the hind legs hit, and then that black disappears. But I really do like how it just stripes into the blue instead of just stopping right there, so it makes it look a bit more natural as it kind of fades into two colors. So I really do like that. Again, would have been nice to see the striping continue all the way down the tail, and maybe a bit more of the black markings here on the leg, just to feel, a bit more complete. I just wish that a lot of these figures felt complete in terms of paint, but luckily we got great color choices in general and great sculpt and all that. So the eye, again, is painted in a nice yellow color, which makes it stand out against the dark color of the head. And this one's got a pupil, and this one's actually got a slit, so very raptor-like in terms of the eyes right there. But it looks really good. And then on top of those two colors, you got this really nice orange color for the lower jaw, the little dewlap right here, and a little bit here along the neck. So that's it. Again, the colors complement very nice to each other on this one. The orange and the black and the blue, I don't know why, just those colors just feel so good together, especially on this dinosaur. And I'm okay with this orange being applied right here because it just kind of makes it seem like it's only necessary because this one has a dewlap, where everything else is just like these dark colors. But, you know, the hind claws aren't painted. These claws are molded in a black paint, so that kind of looks like they're painted, but it would have been nice to see this color applied to the claws. But that's just my opinion. And then the mouth is your standard fleshy color with the little off-white teeth, which blends in, or not blends in, but stands out very nicely and naturalistic compared to the rest of the colors. So yeah, the colors are very nice on these two figures. For action feature wise, it's got your standard Wild War action feature. It's got the famous primal attack gimmick where you just move the tail, which you know me, I love that gimmick. So we'll go ahead and test out each one. We'll test out the Abelisaurus. So you just basically move the tail up and down and you twist it. And yeah, let's go ahead and test that out. So obviously you're not going to get sounds when you twist it, but it's a nice little movement. And then you got some go down. So the mouth is stuck open, you move it up and down and it moves its neck and it chomps. So that's your standard kind of little gimmick that you have with these dinosaurs. In terms of sound effects, from what I gathered, they're pretty much just Carnotaurus sounds from the Jurassic movies, which is fine because Carnotaurus is an Abelisaur, so having those same sounds applied to these other Abelisaurs, it makes sense, so I can't complain about that. They sound really cool though. Now let's move on to the Aucasaurus. So nice little fluent movement here. So nice sounds. I can hear some Carnotaurus sounds, but there are some that I'm not really familiar with, to be honest with you. I'll have to listen to them a bit closer, but they don't necessarily sound like Carnotaurus. There's some Carnotaurus in there, but some sound a bit different. But either way, even if I don't know what they belong to, it works well for this dinosaur. So yeah, the sound effects and the action gimmicks are really nice on this one. Now, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to comparisons. Alrighty, so first up, we have the Abelisaurus and Aucasaurus compared with a human figure. Here, again, we have Dr. Henry Loomis, and I think this is a fairly nice size range. Not too familiar with how big Abelisaurus and Aucasaurus are. I don't think they were very big at all, but it might be pretty accurate compared to what we have right here. But I do know they weren't necessarily the biggest Abelisaurs around. I could be totally wrong, but the sizes, I mean, they're pretty good for these size of dinosaurs. So yeah, I think these two look really good compared to a human. Alrighty, and last but not least, here we have the Abelisaurus and the Aucasaurus compared with the other medium-sized Abelisaurs that Mattel has made throughout the years. So this does not include every single Abelisaur. I'm gonna wait to do a full comparison in a separate video when I have all the Abelisaurs. I think the only one I'm missing right now is the Spectrovenator, that small little yellow one that I think just came out actually. But I just thought I'd compare the newer figures, the Aucasaurus and the Abelisaurus, compare them with the other medium-sized Abelisaurs that we've gotten throughout the years. And these look fantastic next to each other. It's just so cool and surprising how many Abelisaurs Mattel has made over the years. I mean, you got the biggest one, which is Carnotaurus, and you got a bunch of smaller ones, and then you got all of these medium-sized ones, which these all look really great. And it's just so cool that Mattel loves just making multiple species of one family group. So these all look fantastic. You got, starting at the end of here, you got the Cryptops, then we got the new Abelisaurus, then we got Rajasaurus, then we got Aucasaurus, then we got Scorpiovenator, Equixinatosaurus, and finally Majungasaurus. So really nice to see all these together, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other medium-sized abelisaurs we'll get in the future. But yeah, all these look really great together. It's kind of cool to see, you know, just how Mattel likes to handle certain abelisaurs. Like overall, they pretty much capture the main, you know, anatomy of abelisaurs. They got like that certain roundish looking shape in their skulls, and the longer legs and the, you know, the good sized tails, and obviously osteoderms. But surprisingly, Mattel doesn't add, you know, your signature osteoderms, you know, to all their abelisaurs. You know, you got some, like you got the little row of spikes and a couple of bumps on the Majungasaurus. Same thing applied with the Equixanatosaurus. Scorpiovenator is just super spiky on its head, and a really cool arrangement of plate-looking osteoderms. Then you got the Aucasaurus having, you know, kind of like your classic look of osteoderms. Same with the Rajasaurus, except his are a bit more thicker. Then there's none present at all on the Abelisaurus. And then you got a little row of some here on the back of the Cryptops. So really cool. I like how each one is unique, and these are just look really good in terms of the lineup. Now, the only thing here, actually, the only nitpick I really have with these figures, other than, you know, the lack of, or not really lack, but the incomplete amount of paint, I would say, actually goes to the Abelisaurus, and that is the really long and oversized arms. Abelisaurs do not have such long arms just like those. They should be just like the Aucasaurus, where they're short and puny and just little stubs like that. So I don't know why Mattel decided to give it big arms. I don't know what reference they were looking at, but I really wish this Abelisaur had tiny little arms. They literally just could have taken those little arms on the Aucasaurus, painted it in this black color, and just stuck them on there just to make it a bit more accurate. So obviously Abelisaurus would have been, you know, fully accurate, I guess, or just fully better if it had those smaller arms. I mean, it's still a good figure, but the really small arms does take some points away. And unfortunately, that isn't the only time Mattel has done it. You know, the Aucasaurus, Scorpiovenator, Equixanatosaurus, and Majungasaurus all have the correct sized, puny little arms that Abelisaurus had, whereas the Rajasaurus, Abelisaurus, and Cryptops unfortunately have longer arms, which is not very accurate at all. Kind of an eyesore sometimes here and there. I try to ignore it, but sometimes it could just be a little frustrating just to see that Mattel could have easily given us smaller arms, but for some reason they didn't. So those are the only nitpicks I really have with some of their Abelisaurs. It's just the inaccurate arms. But alright everyone, so that's about to wrap it up for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For my final thoughts, these two figures are fantastic. I love the sculpt work on each one. I love the detail that's in the sculpt. You know, the scaling is just phenomenal on these two figures. I just love how unique they are compared to other Abelisaurs. I love the color choices, whereas the only nitpicks, you know, I really had is just the maybe incomplete amount of paint, as well as the large arms on the Abelisaurus. But other than that, these two are super solid figures, and if you're someone like me that's into getting every single species that Mattel likes to put out, I highly do recommend picking these ones up. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this review, guys. Apologize if this video ends up being long, but yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again for the next video.